Hello, good afternoon. This is Dr. G.K. Kapoor, former professor IMI for business and corporate laws. I have been into teaching of this subject for more than 50 years now. I have been recording a series of lectures on law relating to contracts in India. In this venture, today I am going to record a talk on consideration, a very important element of a valid contract. So what is consideration? Consideration is understood in the sense of something in return. You will appreciate that by very definition, agreement means reciprocal promises. That means a promise in return for a promise. So each of these promises constitutes consideration for the other promise. So therefore, you will once again appreciate that we cannot even think of an agreement without there being consideration. It will be an inconsistency in itself. So how can there be a contract without valid consideration? So consideration, as I said, is understood in the sense of something in return. Quid pro quo. Now this quid pro quo or something in return need not always be a benefit accruing to both the parties. It might be a benefit to one of the parties and an obligation cast upon another party. Say, for instance, X agrees to do a certain job for Y, and thereby he takes the obligation to do that particular job. In return, he is promised 10,000 rupees. So he is being benefited in receiving 10,000 rupees against the obligation that he has undertaken. In English law, the term consideration has been defined primarily in the case of Curie versus Missa in the following words. Within quotes, a valuable consideration in the sense of the law may consist either in some right, interest, profit, or benefit accruing to the one party, or some forbearance, detriment, loss, or responsibility given, suffered, or undertaken by the other. So you will be in a position to understand that consideration may be in positive terms in the sense of some right, interest, profit, or benefit accruing to a party. Or it could also be in the negative sense in terms of some responsibility, detriment, loss, or forbearance that might have been suffered or undertaken by the other party. In India, the definition of consideration is given to us in section 2, clause D. The definition may appear to be a little long one, but I tell you how to remember this particular definition. It reads, when at the desire of the promiser, the promisee, or any other person has done or abstained from doing, or does or abstains from doing, or promises to do or promises to abstain from doing something, such act or abstinence or promise is called a consideration for the promise. Now here, if you look at the definition, you will find that there is a common expression. The common expression is when at the desire of the promiser, the promisee, or any other person. This much is a common expression. Then three tenses have been used: the past tense, present tense, and future tense. Since in India, consideration may be past, present, or future, unlike in England, where past consideration is not recognized as a valid consideration. But in the Indian context, the words used, say, has done or abstained from doing. Has done is in positive terms. Abstained from doing, that is, a person had a right to do something, say for instance, to file a suit against the other, but agrees not to do. Or does or abstains from doing. That is the present tense. The best example of the present consideration will be cash sales. The two things are being exchanged almost simultaneously. The goods are being handed over and cash paid, or services being rendered and cash paid. Or promises to do or promises to abstain from doing something. So this is a future, that X may agree to deliver a car to Y for rupees 5 lakhs, say 6 months later, against the payment that might have been made in advance, or maybe against a promise to pay at the time of delivery. Only a certain amount might be paid as an advance money. So such act or abstinence or promise is called consideration for the promise. So accordingly, as we have learned, that consideration in India may be past, present, or future consideration. There are certain other rules relating to consideration. And the next rule is that consideration to be valid must move at the desire of the promiser. The words when at the desire of the promiser suggest that if consideration moves at the desire of some third party, then it shall not be a valid consideration. So must move at the desire means the promiser must have asked for that something in return. There is an interesting case of Durga Prasad versus Baldev. There was a plot of land belonging to a rich person in a locality on which he had constructed certain shops. These were kacha shops. He, at the desire of the collector of the district, remember, it was the collector of the district who wanted this landlord to convert these kacha shops into pakka shops. So at his instance, he entered into an agreement with the occupiers of those shops that he will construct pakka shops, and after the shops are ready and they occupy it, they will have to pay not only a certain amount as rent each month, but a particular share in the profits also. This agreement was duly executed and registered also. But later on, these shopkeepers, they said, so far as payment of rentals is concerned, it's okay, but they refused to pay any share in the profits. The court decided in favor of these shopkeepers, saying the consideration, that is the construction of these pakka shops, against which the promise to pay rents and share in the profits had been made, had not actually been supplied at the desire of these occupants, rather at the desire of the collector of the district, who was much too concerned about the beautification of his district. Still another essential requirement or another rule relating to consideration is that though consideration has to move at the desire of the promisor, it may move from the promisee or any other person. That means it may not necessarily be supplied by the promisee alone. It may be supplied by any other person. Now, if, say, for instance, I owe a sum of rupees 5 lakhs to X, now whether I pay that money or Y pays that money on my behalf, how should that be material? At least in India, it is possible and allowed. Similarly, a father may happen to purchase the property, maybe in the name of his son or a daughter. So consideration is being paid by the father, though the contract of purchase and sale of the property is entered between the son or the daughter and the third person. Of course, we have the Prohibition of Benami Transactions Act, but as certain exceptions to that act, if a very close relative has supplied the consideration, it will not be covered under the prohibition of the Benami Transactions Act. It is applicable to the consideration being supplied by these strangers. So here in India, there is no problem if I pay the telephone bill of my son or my daughter. But if I were living in England, I would not have been allowed to do so. Because in England, consideration must move from the promisee alone. It must be supplied by the promisee alone and not by any other person. Still another rule is that consideration need not be adequate but must have value in the eyes of the law. So adequacy of consideration cannot be a challenge to the validity of the consideration. There shall be no problem if I voluntarily agree to sell my property worth rupees 5 crores for rupees 5 lakhs, maybe to a charitable institution, maybe to a very, very good friend of mine, maybe to a very close relative of mine. Now, the only thing is that the registration will have to be done at the circle rates and the stamp duty will have to be paid accordingly. Inadequacy of consideration may be produced as an evidence for some kind of fraud, coercion, on or undue influence having been exercised. That means the consent being not free, but otherwise, if consent has been freely given, now there is no issue to that effect. You will kindly excuse me for a second. I'm sorry. With this, let me share the screen with you once again. Let me show you these PPTs. Now, so we have a basic rule that if there is no consideration, there is no contract. And also that consideration has to be legal also. It must have value in the eyes of the law. Say, for instance, if a policeman wants money to apprehend a criminal, there is no consideration in this particular situation, because it is the duty of the policeman to apprehend criminals for which he cannot ask for any additional payment. There are certain exceptions to this rule of law, which is stated in section 25. That is, if there is no consideration, there shall be no contract. These exceptions, some of these are stated in section 25 itself, but there are exceptions contained in other sections also. Let us take up all the exceptions to this rule, no consideration, no contract. The first exception requires 4 conditions to be satisfied. That if it is a contract, if it is an agreement between parties in a near relation to each other and has been the result of natural love and affection, is also put into writing as well as registered, then in spite of the fact that there is no consideration, the agreement shall be validly enforceable in law. Let me explain this to you with the help of an example. Let's say there are 2 brothers. They love each other. One of them is into business, has a lot of money. The other one is in service, occupying a pretty good governmental position. The one in government service is under a lot of financial strains after he purchased an apartment in installments. So the strain is reflected in his behavior, conduct, on his face also. So one day when the two brothers are sitting, enjoying their cup of tea, the businessman brother asks the other that, what's the matter? You used to be so jovial and happy. What has happened to you? You look so sad and look under a lot of stress. He says, yes, brother, since I purchased that apartment, and you know, my children are studying in higher classes. So a lot of amount goes as fee, and I have to maintain a certain standard of living as per my position also. So there is a lot of stress, lot of strain. The business brother says, if you do not mind, can I take the responsibility of paying off your balance loan? Now this brother says, Andha kya maange, do aankhein. Oh brother, you have taken the load off my head. What better can I ever think of? He says then, okay, from today, the loan is mine and I take the responsibility of repaying the balance of your loan. But this brother in service knows fully well that this brother, out of love and affection, is offering me this, but when he goes back home, talks to Bhabi, he might well go back. So he says, no, छोड़ो यार, तुम अभी तो कह रहे हो, लेकिन भाभी नहीं मानेंगी और तुम फिर वापस हो जाओ. He says, I am very serious. Says, if you are serious, then you put it in black and white. He puts it in black and white. He puts it in writing. Now this brother has studied contract law and says it's still actually not valid. So the brother in service says that if you are really, really serious and you want to help me, then we must get this agreement registered also. He says, no problems. They go to the office of the sub-registrar and get the document registered. Now Bhabi or no Bhabi, he is legally bound to pay that balance of the loan on behalf of his brother. But please remember, all the four conditions must be satisfied. It has to be between parties in a near relation to each other. In our example, the two are real brothers. It must have been the result of natural love and affection. So we have not assumed that the businessman brother agreed to sign the papers after a quarrel or after a big fight. He has done it out of natural love and affection. So the document being written and registered also, it is absolutely valid. But the courts have held that mere nearness of relationship does not mean natural love and affection. So if it were the result of quarrels and fights, oh brother, you pocketed all the properties of my parents, so now you must do something for me. So if it is out of no quarrels, then for want of consideration, it shall not be enforceable in law. Similarly, where a person transferred certain properties in favor of a prostitute, the court held that this was not the natural love and affection. There might be love and affection, but that was not the natural love and affection. So all the four conditions need to be satisfied. Then the second exception is a promise to compensate for a voluntary act, which promisor was legally bound to do. So it has to be a promise in the nature of compensation. Now here adequacy of consideration will become very material. The most common example which is offered in this regard is, say, supposing a minor child is lost and has been found by somebody who has taken care of that child, fed him, clothed him, everything, and even tried to find out the parents. And when parents, they come to take their child and they are told about all that money that has been spent. Now, if the parents promise to compensate all those monies which have been spent on the child, then this agreement, in spite of being oral, in spite of being not written, if it can be established, it will be valid and foreseeable in spite of the fact there is no consideration. Why there is no consideration? Because the child had been taken care of voluntarily by that person or by that couple. So that is why, though apparently there may appear to be consideration that the money is being promised to be paid against the services that they have rendered to the child, but having not been supplied at the desire of the promiser, it's not a valid consideration. But here, as I said, if it is a promise to compensate, it will be held as valid in spite of there being no consideration. Then the third exception, again given in section 25, is a written promise to pay a time-barred debt either wholly or partially. So if a written promise has been made to pay a time-barred debt, now what is a time-barred debt? A debt as per the Limitation Act of 1963 becomes time-barred on expiry of 3 years from the date it becomes due. Say, for instance, if a person has taken an FDR with a company, and the period of the FDR, the fixed deposit receipt, is 3 years. Now this man has put that FDR somewhere and completely forgets about it. Now, one day when he's thoroughly cleaning his premises, he comes across a 6-year-old FDR. Now he wants to claim the money on FDR. Will he be allowed? The answer is legally he cannot be allowed because the FDR became due for payment on expiry of 3 years from the date it became, I'm sorry, now it became due after 3 years. And now on expiry of 3 years, it has become time bound. So if he discovered it after 6 years, it having already become time barred, he cannot recover it legally. But if the company makes a promise to pay that amount, then that promise, law says, will be a valid promise, provided it was made in writing. An entry in the balance sheet has been held to be a written promise to pay. Now, another exception is with respect to contracts of bailment. Bailment here is not what you normally understand by the word bail, that a criminal has been granted the bail, or Aryan, the son of Shah Rukh Khan, is granted the bail. It is not that bail, it is bailment. Bailment, as per section 124, is the delivery of goods by one person to another upon a contract that the same shall be returned back after the purpose is accomplished. Law says this bailment may be for a price, that is for consideration, or even maybe without any consideration. If you take furniture on hire for marriage purposes or crockery on hire, that is a bailment for a price for consideration. Certainly valid. But say, supposing if you lend a book to a friend, you don't expect nor any amount is settled to be paid in that regard. Here also you have delivered something, some goods to the friend, or you have lent your scooter or car to your friend. That also is bailment without consideration. Now the friend cannot keep back that book, that scooter or car, saying no consideration, no contract, no rights, no obligation. No, the friend will have to return that book, will have to return that scooter, motorcycle without demand after the purpose for which he had borrowed is over, is accomplished. Then under section 185, agency does not require any consideration. So if you engage somebody to collect the proceeds of a check on your behalf from a bank, the check is a bearer check. He collects the proceeds. Can he refuse to pay the proceeds back, saying, sir, you did not promise me anything in return, so no consideration, no contract. You have no rights, I have no obligation to return back the payment I collected. No. Law says agency does not require consideration. Section 185. And then lastly is gift. By very description, the term gift means without any consideration. But law makes a distinction between a gift which has been completed, that means given and accepted by the other party, and a promise to gift. A promise to gift being without consideration is not valid. If supposing you make a promise to gift a Sony Bravia 40 inches color television set, LED color television set, on the marriage of your friend, and you do not even attend the marriage of your friend, can the friend come and claim कि अरे भाई एक तो शादी भी करवा दी और फिर promised gift भी नहीं दिया, लाओ मेरा gift सोनी ब्राउन? The answer is no. A promise to gift being without consideration is not valid. लेकिन अगर वो दोस्त सिंसियर था in his promise, वो कलर टीवी लेके सोनी ब्राविया 40 इंचेस एलईडी टीवी लेके उसकी शादी में पहुंच गया और उसको गिफ्ट दे दिया, उसने एक्सेप्ट कर लिया. दिस इज कॉल्ड कंप्लीटेड गिफ्ट. अब 15 दिन के बाद मान लीजिए उन दोनों में आपस में बहुत बुरी तरह से झगड़ा हो गया. Now, can this friend demand his TV back? The answer is no. A gift once given and accepted by the other party is valid in spite of there being no consideration. So we shall stop at this. So today we have finished with consideration. All right. So thank you very much. See you in the next video.